Welcome to our book review segment and Morning Rave. And let me establish this. We do know that there are lots of talented writers here in Nigeria, a lot of them, no doubt about it. But the fact is that some of them, I think that what's the use of writing when you really can't sell your book? So many of them just go into hiding, although then get distracted with other things. But when you have someone who will actually tell you exactly how to turn your book into a money-making machine, why won't you be glad? Of course, you'll be glad to have that person to tell you exactly what path and what direction to actually take. And I'm saying this because we do have the author of a wonderful piece of work here with us, Edirin Edewor. She's a multiple award Amazon, best-selling book winner, and of course, an entrepreneur, a mindset coach, and a lot of things to add to it. But welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and we're also glad to have your book here with us called The Business of Writing Books, The Effective Guide to Turning Your ebook into a Money Machine. Quite interesting, yes. I'm having a book here, and that same book is also telling us how to make money to write a book. But looking at it, going through your book, I looked at chapter 2 of it, and it's quite interesting because you were talking about something called a mindset and branding. But let me start with a mindset. You mentioned two mindsets: a fixed mindset and a growth mindset.
Yes.
Could you just explain exactly what you were trying to put out there concerning having a mindset, especially when you're an author?
Yeah. So first of all, I would like to start by defining what mindset is. So mindset is basically your mental disposition that enables you to react in a certain way when something happens. So that's like a broad general definition. So mindsets are usually formed by our beliefs, by our experiences, things we had to experience, especially when we're growing up, Like, for example, there's a certain mindset that certain people have about, the country called Nigeria.
Of course,
people say, oh, it's very hard to do business in Nigeria. But you find, again, other people saying, oh, it's not that hard. It's actually quite easy as a Nigerian to do business in Nigeria. So it's the same situation, but different opinions. Why? It's mindset. And you see that from people who have the different mindsets, the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. People who have the fixed mindset always believe that, things are and will always be. They are like,
but things won't change.
Exactly. Things can change. I can improve. Oh, I was born poor, so I will die poor. Or it's because I didn't go to school. That's why I'm poor. And that's why I don't have opportunities. It's only if I know somebody in the high places that I will be able to do this and that, Yet people who have a growth mindset believe that your current circumstance does not determine your future destination. You have the power to be able to change where you're going to, as long as you're able to do the right things, probably get a little bit more information, be more informed, be more exposed, and think positively, then you'll be able to achieve those things. So those are the two different mindsets.
Well, we don't know that writing a book is a lot of challenges to it, because some people write not knowing exactly if it will sell. But going through your book too, you were talking about having a niche for yourself. Having an authority in whatever you are writing. How easy is that for you? Because of course you've succeeded in that department. Talking from experience, how do you go about that?
Okay, first of all, I always say everybody has a book in them. I get a lot of stick for that.
Everybody has a book. But I do agree with you. I will give you a stick for that because there's always a story to tell.
Exactly. Everybody has a story to tell. As long as you're alive on this earth, you have experience, and everybody is the expert on themselves. It's possible that you have done something, maybe overcome a particular challenge, or there's something you do at work. For example, sitting down here and having a conversation is something that terrifies a lot of people. So imagine you as the expert sitting down here and doing proper presentations. Create a book to teach people who don't have your skills to do that. You're already positioning yourself as the expert.
I have to write that down. So I can be an author of that. That's quite interesting because I've seen, from personal experience, I've seen a lot of people. I have friends who have good writing skills, but they have abandoned that because they feel they can't make money out of it, And some of them even have to start writing something else because they feel, oh, this is what people will actually buy into. By the end, they fail in that. Now, talking about branding, there are two type of branding that you actually mentioned. The first branding, and then your own personal branding. Let's start with the first branding. Looking at your piece of work. How do you go about branding it? Because you mentioned something very important. Titling, sometimes you see some titles and then you go off, okay, you know, sometimes I see title and I don't read the book because of the title.
Yeah.
You know, from your own experience, how do you go about titling your book? What's the idea behind titling your book?
Okay, so one simple trick I advise people to do is, if people are searching for it, clearly they need that kind of information. So if you want to write a book, for example, on how to, you know, be a proper presenter or how not to get scared when you're in front of the camera, go on Google and type how not to get scared. You know, Google does that autocomplete.
Yes.
So when Google autocompletes what you're saying, usually the top suggestions states that people are looking at this particular information and they're seriously looking for answers. So you want to pick the top ones, because chances are, if people are looking for it, if you title your book based off of that, people will see that and be like, oh, I've been searching for an information exactly like that. So when I was putting together this book, The Business of Writing Books, I had a different title, but then I typed what information will people be looking for when they're trying to make money. I wrote make money writing books. I saw that, but when I checked The Business of Writing Books, I was blown away at how much people were looking for this particular thing. Because there are a lot of authors, but not a lot of people know how to actually make money or build a business around their books. So I was able to pick that. And when you see the title, The Business of Writing Books, your mind will go, oh, I can build a business from my book, or I can sell my books and make money.
So you're quite sure that it will hit a mark,
Exactly.
you know, using that title rather than something else, you know.
Exactly.
Quite interesting. You also talked about that if you're a first-time author, don't run the risk of putting your face on on the book. You know, accept you as good looking as you are yourself.
Well, this is my 6th book.
So of course you have the authority to do this. Why not?
Exactly.
You're also a multiple you know, award winner. So why not doing that? But as a first-timer, why would you say don't put your face on the book? What's the huge risk there?
Many times when you want to buy a book and you say you go to the bookstore and you see a lot of books with a lot of faces on them, you're more attracted to the face you're more familiar with. So if you saw a Robert Kiyosaki book, or you saw a Wole Soyinka or Chimamanda book, or a Tony Robbins book with their faces on it,
These are familiar faces.
You instinctively go to buy them. No, especially regarding the fact that they're already very popular and they've written a lot of books, they're very well known. But if you see a book with a face that you don't really know, and then it's in the same section with another book with a face that you probably already know, you would rather go for the one you already know, because in your mind, you don't want to waste money buying something that you may not necessarily gain for. But if it's probably just a title, no face, and then it's right next to another one with a face, but the title is really catchy, and the subtitle really explains what the person is getting. For example, you see my book has a subtitle, you'd be like, so this book has this really nice, catchy title. Let me give it a chance. Let me take a chance on this particular book. You know, that's what the mindset and the psychology is behind that.
Is that the same thing of why some people write with the pseudonyms rather than using their actual names?
Yes.
So that's the same thing that happens okay, let me just use something else.
When it actually began, many times in the olden days, let me use that word, women were looked down on as writers. So there are a lot of female authors who then used male names to publish their books, you understand? Like, for example, you know, there are a lot of very popular books that were written like that. And then we come to the world of fiction, for example, and you see books like J.K. Rowling's, and you know them, R.R. Martin's and the rest of them. And a lot of people are like, oh, these names are very catchy. If I use my Edirin Edewor or my something that people can't pronounce, it will be very difficult for me to compete. So people choose names that are more catchy, easy to remember, and names that may actually make themselves more.
And there's no risk of losing your particular image, and that even though you're using
Another reason too is that sometimes people probably have written a book on a particular subject, and maybe they want to go into another different genre of writing. Say I want to write children's book, for example. I may decide that I don't want to confuse my personal brand by writing a children's book when I normally dominate on self-help, so I may just publish that with a pseudonym.
Okay, then what about personal branding? What you know, just take us through what you mean by personal branding, especially when it comes to you know, authoring.
Yeah. So many times people write books and they think it's going to be their last. And I've seen this from a lot of authors that I have helped. And by the time they write and publish the first one, they have this rush and they're excited and they can't wait to get into the next one again. And if you don't get it right the first time, it will be difficult for you to continue on that same level. So if you want to build a career off of writing books, or you want to build probably thought leadership on a particular subject, it's important for you to brand yourself, because you may say now that I don't want to build a business off of this, but you may change your mind later. And later it may become very difficult for you to go through the branding processes. So it's important for you to brand yourself from the start. Branding yourself helps you to actually get a lot of audience before you even launch your book. Okay. So if you notice in some of the chapters where I talk about personal branding, I talk about building an audience. Okay. So you want to really focus on your personal brand, have your own website, because by the time you publish, people want to know who's this person. And they want to go online and check out who you are. Yeah. There's nothing online about you. There's nothing on YouTube. You don't have a personal website. You don't have a Facebook page. It's very difficult for people to find you. But when you brand yourself, you become more visible. People want to see you. People want to get in touch with you.
Would you say that social media has really made it easier right now for authors like yourself, especially young authors, to actually reach out to their audience? And for you, how have you been able to use that technology to actually get your audience focused on you?
Awesome. So social media has been really amazing. 96% of my book sales come from social media. 96%. And I've been able to, from the moment I launched my second book, which was part 1 to this book.
I understand this as a sequel.
Yeah, that's called the A to Z of ebook publishing. I launched on a Facebook group. Wow. And the day I launched, I had built a brand. Before then, I had built a certain audience, so I had about 502 people. This is 1 year and 9 months since we opened that community. Today, I have 21,400 members of a community of authors, writers, and entrepreneurs. Wow. And I cannot tell you how many opportunities have been opened to me because of this particular thing. I've been able to train internationally. I've been able to speak internationally just because I was able to leverage something as little as Facebook groups that people take for granted. So social media is huge and really, really amazing when it comes to building your brand and selling your book, actually.
But before I let you go, I must ask you, what's the advice for female authors and, of course, aspiring publishers, let me put it that way, who also want to be in your own shoes and been finding them, because many out there are watching at this moment to know exactly. So what would you say to them?
For the first part, the world is more progressive now, especially as it comes to women and writing, So first of all, I advise females, don't put yourself in a box by saying, oh, I'm a female author. That in itself is already making you have certain limitations, especially as regards, certain things that has to do with the particular gender of women. Do what you can do. Let your work speak for you. If your work speaks for you, it's going to break down any barrier. Women are crashing glass ceilings left, right, and center these days, and why can't you do so? And for young aspiring authors, like I said in the beginning, everybody has a book in them. You're the expert on the subject of you. There's something you do so well that you take for granted that other people will be very happy to learn from you. Take, for example, our lovely moderator here who's sitting down here and having an amazing time on TV, and he can actually write a book on that, and I will probably buy it because it took a lot of nerves having me sit down here today. You may not show, but probably inside I'm shaking. Having somebody teach you that is an amazing thing. So don't look down on yourself that you have nothing to write. You are an expert on the subject of you, and it's very easy for you to write.
So what's your favorite part of the book? I'd love for you to read some lines out of it if possible.
Okay. I like to read the disclaimer part. The disclaimer part because I like to make disclaimers, especially when it comes to authors. We get a lot of stick. I say, oh, you said that this thing was good. You wrote this thing, and you said I was going to be able to get this thing, but when I read your book and I applied, it did not happen for me like that. I did not make the 10 million in the 30 days, So my disclaimer is people's circumstances are different. People's situations are different. What works for you may not necessarily work for another person. This book is just a guide. It is not necessarily to tell you that if you apply X, Y, and Z, you will get A, B, and C exactly as it is. My own situation is different from your situation. So understand your own situation. Learn to take the lessons in this book and apply them to your own unique situation, and it will definitely turn out some level of result for you. So that is it.
Thank you very much for joining us, Edirin Edewor, this morning. It was really good talking to you. Although you said it's not for non-fiction, it's basically for non-fiction writers. That's what you said.
The first one can also help for fiction.
Okay, I'll take that because I love fictions, and sometimes I dabble in writing fictions too. So now that you've said it, I'm very hopeful that I'm not being discarded.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. The Business of Writing Books, the effective guide to turning your ebook into a money machine. That's what Edirin Edewor calls it. She's a multiple award-winning Amazon bestseller author, and also a mindset coach and entrepreneur. Maybe one day we'll be talking about your entrepreneurship, apart from your authorship as it is. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
I wish you the best. Looking forward to more works from you.
Thank you.
And that's it. We'll be joining, or rather you'll be joining us later on our newspaper review segment in just a moment. So stick around, Morning Rave continues.